our videos, something occurred to me, and that's a big thing for me. This is one of those walks that has been on my desk for a long time, and I've kept putting it off. It's not a massive walk, and I think that's what's put me off in the past. I just keep thinking, it's not a big walk, it's not a big challenge. There are so many reasons and excuses that can get in our way of just doing it, just getting out. The bag's packed, it's sitting there, just put it in the van or the car and go. So I did. It occurred to me that most of the time I argue with myself instead of just saying, yeah, you know what, I'm going to do it, I'm going to go. So my advice to you this time around in this video is if you're thinking about going to do a nice walk, just go and do it. Just get out there and go and do it, because this is glorious today. I've just come from the Dunny Water gate, and I'm walking up the water service road, and I'm going to join the Annalong River, and then I'm going to follow the Annalong River all the way along through the Annalong Valley, just to the bottom of Sleeve Beg, or maybe up the side of Sleeve Beg, just to that point where the river starts there. So it's not a massive walk, probably a few hours maximum, but I'm going to sleep out tonight. I'm going to find somewhere along the Annalong River, and there are plenty of spots along that Annalong Valley. And in fact, I might not go too far before I put my tent up, because it's a glorious evening tonight. It's the middle of August, about 17 degrees, which is just heavenly for walking in. So there it is, there's my motivation. Just go and do it. Stay with me for the journey, should be fun. One of our many little dung beetles, and isn't he class? Now let me flip him over and will you see the underside, if he's going to allow me to. Look at that iridescence, isn't it gorgeous? Sometimes they can be like purple or blues. Turn over, there we go, look at that, isn't it gorgeous? So yes, a door beetle, and around the Mournes, and particularly Castlewellan and places like that, there are just loads of these. They're a good size. Look at that on my finger, he's a fair size. Gorgeous wee thing, love them. Something else that did occur to me, as I said back there, you know, if your bag's packed, just get out there, go. I was a scout. I was in the Scouts for years, Cubs before that. And of course the motto of Cubs and Scouts, be prepared. I've checked the weather, although it's overcast now, it's about 17 degrees, quite warm. But I do have layers with me for tonight because the temperature will drop. I have got wet weather gear just in case those showers amount to more than just showers. I've got tent, I've got emergency stuff, I've got first aid with me. I've let people know where I am. I am prepared, I think. So it's not just a matter of just going. Be prepared. Get yourself packed. Get packed appropriately, and then go for it. Coming up this way gives you some amazing views. Sleeve Binion, Percy Bish, Sleeve Lamagan, right out as far as Cove, a little bit of Cove there, right up onto Rocky Mountain. Stunning views. Now at the end of the water service road is a complex of weirs that directs water into the Binion Tunnel. After the completion of the Silent Valley in 1933, demand for water in Belfast continued to grow and it was decided to flood the Annalong Valley as a second reservoir. But instead of building a dam, the corporation chose to dig a 2.25 mile tunnel through Slieve Binion. This is the opening for it. It's only 8 foot square and the river now feeds the Silent Valley Reservoir. It took 150 men just about 4 years to dig the whole thing. Unreal. I've just left the Binion Tunnel down there and I'm still following the river, the Annalong River here, and I'll be heading up towards Slieve Lamagan and Cove and then on further around to Slieve Beg. But it just reminded me there's a lot of occurrences this evening, but just another wee safety tip I guess when you're out and about. One of the things that I tend to do is I leave word with somebody when I leave. They have my route, my rough route. I mean, I'm not going to stick rigidly to it, although I'm usually pretty well planned and prepared. So my route, my estimated time of start, my estimated time of finishing, and they also have the instructions as to what to do. It's usually my dad that has all the information, but sometimes it's Yule, sometimes it's Stephen, who have been out walking with me and kind of know what terrain I'm working my way through. So something to maybe be aware of. I have a checklist, and one of the things is to make sure that those people have that information. Evening! It's a nice evening, isn't it? Now this route is not complicated, you're just following the river, and there are some beautiful little cascades and waterfalls all the way up here. Just look at this, look at the depth of that plunge pool, you can't see the bottom of it. Now just up there on the left hand side of the river is a lovely little piece of flat ground with Hare's Castle up behind us, Slieve Binion out ahead of us, the river alongside us, just glorious. Let's pitch a tent there then. Is there a more perfect way to spend an evening sitting eating your tea with Binion in front of you, the Alyn River rolling down beside you, It's exactly what your head needs after a busy day at work. So hi, I decided to come inside because there's a bit of a light shower. There were showers predicted for this evening. I'm saying there's a shower, but actually it sounds as if it's already gone over. There's a few spits and spots, but nothing major. There were showers predicted, but it's obviously not coming to much, which is great. But it did remind me, something else occurred to me just as I was putting up the tent, because as you saw, the Lanchan 2 goes up very quickly. I've left a bit of a gap around the bottom tonight for a bit of ventilation to come in and through. But for example, on the night when I was up in Burna, it was tight to the ground. You can do that with the Lanchan 2. You can sort of raise it and lower it to allow or not allow the wind to come in or the breeze to come in underneath the lip of the fly sheet. That stops the buildup of condensation and stuff. So it's a really versatile wee tent like that as well. But it did occur to me what I was, when I'm out looking for a site, what am I looking for? I want something that's relatively flat-ish, which is not always possible on a mountain, but I certainly don't want a wee depression. I don't want a wee sort of divot in the ground, because quite often that's where the water will gather and you will end up sleeping in a puddle, which is not very pleasant. And the other thing too is, okay, so it's not always possible to get a flat site because you're on a mountain. You could be on a slope. And if you're on a bit of a slope, then make sure that your head is uphill, because you don't want the blood all rushing to your head, and it's very uncomfortable. You don't get a good night's sleep, if you can get to sleep at all, with your head down below. The other thing to remember is that you naturally think that it's colder at the top of a mountain, and generally it is, but in a hollow or in a valley too, cold air sinks, and therefore quite often down in there it can be really cold late on at night or into the early mornings. So when you're getting up for sunrise and things like that, it can be icy cold, it can be bitterly cold down in there. So if you're in a little hollow, or if you're in a little or if you're in a valley, quite often it can be very, very cold, and that's why, because the cold air is coming off the mountain and it sinks to that valley, and it might be held in there. And then the other thing to say is, quite often in my videos I try to get, if I'm up the Mournes, for example, I try to get beside a wall or in a bit of a sheltered area. That's not always possible. In the Mournes it's relatively possible. You're finding little crevices and cracks, or this little valley here that I am in along the side of the river, here just at the side of the Annalong River. So it is often possible, but not always, and it does cut down the wind, which then makes it for a much more pleasant night. But as you saw in my last video, sometimes the wind changes direction and you end up in the wrong place, because it certainly was very blustery and very breezy that night. Although tonight, look how calm it is. It's so good. Anyway, yeah, I think I'll keep doing this just as things occur to me, or as I'm doing things and I suddenly realise what's happening or what I'm at, and I'll keep chatting to you. In the meantime, I think I'm just going to lie and read my book for a bit, because it's beautiful out there, so I can just lie here. The midges are out, which is a bit of a nightmare. So I do have the net. I'm sure you saw me wearing it, which is very handy. It's a mosquito net, which goes over. I tend to put it over my hat, because then it keeps it away from my face, and even if they land on me, it keeps them away from me. But it looks a bit like that. Morning Walkwatchers. Well, after the night that I spent on Slieve Cometa last week, which was blustery and cold, last night was absolutely heaven. It was calm, it was warm, it was just glorious. I don't think I woke once. And it's still quite mild this morning. In fact, although it's a wee bit cloudy and overcast, look at Binion, you can't even see the top of Binion. It's still quite mild, it's really quite nice. I think that big layer of cloud has kept the heat in. The only issue, I don't know if you can tell, what the only other issue is, are the midges. But then what did I expect, parking myself down by the river? Hey, it is what it is. They deserve to be here too, don't they? Yeah. So, when I was packing up the tent this morning, I thought to myself, I really must mention the leave no trace principles, because they are vitally important when we're out and about in the mountains. There are 7 principles, and you'll hear creators on YouTube talking about this all the time. People who are out hiking and wild camping, particularly around the waste issue. You know, Jason from Rambling On and even Jerry from Walking and Wild Camp in Ireland will go out and actually collect waste, and maybe even do videos on it. Go and check those out. And if you're out and about and you see the waste, you know, lift it and take it with you. I like to pack all my waste away in a plastic bag and put it into my backpack, or hang it from my backpack before I leave. But there are other principles too, like planning ahead and preparing. That's a principle to lessen our impact on the environment. Why? Because it means that we're looking at trails that are well trodden, that we're not clambering across, you know, habitat that might be important, or might be a bit fragile. Things like being considerate of other people. You know, there are landowners here. This is owned and run by the National Trust. There are other farmers and things that are investing time and energy in the mountains too, so we need to be considerate of them. We need to be considerate of the farm animals that are here, the sheep. So certainly in the Mournes there are sheep and there are horses here, so we need to be considerate of those. And wildlife, the wildlife that uses this or calls this home, we need to be considerate of that. Another principle is to travel and camp on durable ground. So I tend to look for sites that have been used before. This site certainly has been used before quite a lot. There's an old fire pit. Somebody has put a lot of stones around and has created a fire area. The ground seems to have been well used as a site for camping, and I tend to, as much as possible, try and stick to the trails, simply because then I know that that ground has been prepared or has been used in the past for walking on, and I'm not damaging any ground that might be fragile. Leave what you find is another principle. I know people who would still be picking flowers and stuff like that. We don't really do that anymore. We tend to take photographs. They used to say, you know, take only photographs and memories from the place, and I think that's a great principle to live by when you're in the mountains. You know, we don't want to be taking anything away from here, because we're actually depleting the environment that we're walking through. Just as I'm leaving here, I'm making sure that I have no rubbish left around, that everything has gone into my backpack and I'm ready to leave, that it doesn't look as if I've had any impact here any more than just a sort of a space where my body was lying last night, that nature can recover from. And I'll be heading out on trails that I know that are well worn. So, onwards and upwards. With the clouds hanging so low over the mountains, the Mournes looked a little moody and melancholy. Nothing a brisk walk up the river wouldn't clear away. Listen, thank you so much for clicking on our video today. If you want to keep up to date with what's going on here at Walkwatchers and be notified of the next videos that are coming out, click on the subscribe button, click on the little bell for notifications, and you'll be notified when they're coming out. Look at this up the Annalong Valley. Look how low those clouds are, just touching Cove. Now, I know I've said it before, but trainers are okay for running, but hiking requires a heavier shoe, a boot. If you're on the trail, trail shoes are great, but out in the mountains, out in the open mountains, with bog and heather and rocks, boots are the thing. Well waterproofed boots, and not new ones either. Make sure that they're well broken in before you get out there. You want to save yourself from blisters. A good pair of hiking socks and even sports socks will help keep those blisters at bay. So just crossed the river, cove up behind us, and it's just glorious down here in the Annalong Valley. It's still very warm, but as I was crossing there I thought I really don't want wet feet, and of course I ended up in the water. However, my boots are well waterproofed, so my feet aren't too badly wet, thank goodness. There's nothing worse than trudging along on a hike being wet. Either wet feet or just wet in general. And it's another kind of principle that I try and live by, which is to stay as dry as possible for as long as possible. Sometimes it's inevitable. You're out in all sorts of weathers and hey, you're going to get wet. So best to be prepared for that. I have a little light waterproof jacket with me today because the weather forecast gives showers last night and today. The showers last night didn't amount to much. It's overcast today, so we could get showers yet. So I've got my wee Berghaus black waterproof jacket with me, just in case. I don't have waterproof trousers with me today, nor do I have my big heavy Revolution Race jacket with me today because I don't feel that I'll need it, but I think I'm prepared enough for showers today. So yeah, another wee principle I try to hike by, which is to stay as dry as possible for as long as possible. I'm right in the heart of the Annalong Valley now, pressing on to Comada, which is right at the end of the valley there in the murk and the cloud. There on our left is a wee bit of cove and Sleeve Beg, and again these beautiful cascades the whole way up the river that you don't normally get to see unless you're walking along the banks. I must admit I did spend some time just sitting beside this one. This is absolutely beautiful at the foot of Sleeve Beg. Well, not at the foot of Sleeve Beg, but with Sleeve Beg in the background. Just stunning, stunning. Well, I think I've probably gone about as far as I want to go here. Comada's up behind me, and we're getting to, well, the source is up on Comada for the Annalong River. And if I spin round, you can see there's the Devil's Coach Road and on Sleeve Beg. And then if I go on round, there's Cove, and right down into the Annalong Valley there behind me. I'm now blocking it. There we go. There's the Annalong Valley down behind me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to contour around the bottom of Sleeve Beg here, and then over to the other tributary of the Annalong, which comes down off Sleeve Beg, and then I'll follow the Annalong River back down home. So let's keep going. It was at this point that the clouds let go and I got those showers that I was expecting. Now, nothing too serious, but my day was bright when I met Terry and Rab. Terry's a subscriber, so a big shout out to you guys, and to Terry's wife, who can't understand why he watches these mountain videos. Well, hopefully she will now. It'd be great to see you out on the trails, Mrs. Terry. And it was great to chat to you, Terry and Rab. Thanks for stopping to say hi. So if you've enjoyed watching this mountain video, maybe it's time that you got your boots on. Go outside and go exploring, and I'll see you again next time.